It isn't what you have or who you are or where you are or what you're doing that makes you happy or unhappy. It is what you think about, says Dale Carnegie. Today on Growing Hope, we begin the journey to find a balanced life by thinking about what we want and then pursuing the actions that will get us there.
It's time for Growing Hope, the show determined to grow up hearts open to pursue the extraordinary. Because you are extraordinary! And now, live from a little cabin in the woods, nestled along Big Spring Creek, it's your host, Kathryn Lang.
Hello and welcome to Growing Hope. I am Kathryn Lang and I am your resident Hope Smith extraordinaire and your purveyor of snarky rainbows. Because with hope, everything becomes possible, and who doesn't like a few snarky rainbows now and then? Thank you so much for joining me on this journey to live a balanced life, because balance is so important. And without balance, you can never get to where you want to be, and you often end up more laying face down in the dirt. At least that's usually what happens to me. Balance is important. The other day, my husband and I were taking a walk up and down the driveway, and we've walked this same path dozens and dozens of times together, and he always walks on the same side of the road without any issue. But this day was different, because this day he stepped just apparently perfectly in this rut, and on the side of the rut there was gravel running down the edge of the rut, and he stepped on this loose gravel and fell. Now, somehow magically, before he actually hit the ground, he popped back up and would have been fine, except that the place that he popped back up to and took his step was that same gravel covered rut, which means that he was nowhere closer to a solid foundation. He was in the same situation he was when he first slipped, and so this time he hit the ground. Now, again, he was right back up, and he was fine. Before I could even ask him if he was okay, he was already halfway down the driveway. Me, on the other hand, when I trip over the gravel or over a stick or over air, it never turns out as well for me. It's always way, way uglier. This day, he was fine. He fell, he got up, he kept going. That's not always how it works out. I was impressed that he was able to do that. I was impressed that he kept going. Now, it wasn't just that I was impressed with how he failed, but with his determination to go on. The point of this story, though, is not that my husband fell well or that I was even impressed with how well he fell. The point is that without balance, we all fall. And without balance on the right foundation, we all fall again. Some of us just don't fall as pretty as others. Balance doesn't happen by accident. Falling, on the other hand, falling can happen by accident, but balance does not happen by accident. If you want to live in purpose and on purpose, you're going to have to find a way to your balance. You're going to have to find a way to not just have balance, but have balance on the right foundation. If you want to avoid the spills, there are 8 things you need to be embracing in your life. You need to admit the problem, review the options, let it go. Set a workable budget, make a you plan, because it has to be for you, take a step, connect with others, and then review and adjust. Now, we're going to focus on understanding that first thing to embrace, that idea of admitting that there's a problem, what it means and how it looks. It turns out, if you aren't where you want to be right now, the only person to blame is staring back at you from the mirror. I mean, not right this second, because right now you and I, we're staring at each other. But when you go to the mirror, the only person that is to blame is the one staring back at you from that mirror, from that situation. You are the only person that can stop you from doing what you want to do. You are the only person that can put a halt to your forward progress. And you are the only person that can get you there. Nobody else can do it for you, as much as we would like for other people to be able to do it for us. And it turns out that that person in the mirror is easily deluded by the person that's looking at them. You can create a delusion that the person in the mirror will accept. If you want to build your balanced life, then you have to develop a habit of admitting that there is a problem. But how do you do that? Well, 1, you remember that nothing changes before the mind. 2, accept that you can't trick yourself forever. 3, understand that healing begins with wound exposure. 4, learn how honesty makes a way for change. And 5, set the pattern of admit, accept, and move on. It's that simple. You really can create a path to balance, and balance on the right foundation, when you're intentional and you're personal in your investment in this pattern. You can have different, but you have to choose different to get there. It is up to you, and only up to you. But if you choose, and if you do, and if you keep on choosing, and if you keep on doing, you will get there. I've talked and I've written to you about my struggles with my body image and weight. I've had my ups, I've had my downs, literally, figuratively. Get it? Figuratively. I've had wins, I've had not so pretty moments, but I recently encountered a brick wall that turned out to be a wonderful aha moment for me. Not too long ago, I was speaking at WordCamp Birmingham, and I was reviewing the presentations I had given in the past, the pictures that had been taken of me in the past. I was kind of getting a feel for what to expect and what I wanted to do in reviewing, and I saw the images, and I wondered how I got from point A to point B. I mean, I knew how I got from point A to point B, but again, deluded, the person in the mirror, right? So I wasn't sure how I got there, and I was looking at these images, and I knew I wanted things to be different. Things needed to be different. I looked at the images of one of the other organizers from WordCamp and his successful journey to better health, and I was determined I was going to be more comfortable with people taking my picture, not because I was just going to be comfortable with them taking my picture, but because I was going to be in a better place. I made a plan. I knew what I wanted to do. I patterned my plan after the plan that had helped me get my garden moving in the right direction. I knew it was going to require little bits, but I had a plan to get there. Well, it turns out that even when a plan is made by the same person in similar circumstances, the struggles in this plan and this plan aren't always equal, and they're compounded by an unwillingness to admit the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you're not honest, the best laid plans will not work. The more you attempt to trick yourself into believing things are okay, or that you are doing what needs to be done, or whatever you're tricking yourself into believing, the harder it's going to be to implement your plan. It's that simple. When it came to my garden, I have been bluntly honest with myself about the problem. I was the problem. Yes, my family wasn't helping me when I thought they should, but it wasn't their fault. Ultimately, the garden and where it was fell on my shoulders, not theirs. It required I pushed past the blame game. I had to overcome the if-onlys. I had to be truthful. And once I got to that place, I was able to craft and implement a plan that actually worked for me. When it came to my health and my weight, I was serious about my plan. I was aware of my need for change. I was determined for a new outcome. But unlike the situation with the garden, I was nowhere close to being honest. Not with myself, and quite honestly, not with anybody that would ask. I just was not being real. I had created my own reality, and I was very comfortable living in it. I was lying to myself. I was lying to the people around me. I was, lying to the apps. I mean, let's be honest. I was lying to everybody. I did practice positive word focus because words have power, but I always focused on the win of the situation. You know, when I lose this weight, when I lose these inches, when I fit into these pants, when. But when is not the answer. When is never the answer. No matter what you're facing or what you're working to overcome, when will not get you there, ever. When actually gives you an excuse not to take the action you need. I've tried to wait for when, but it turns out waiting for when is a losing proposition. Now is the time. Now is when you need to act. Now is when you need to step. Now is when you need to do what you know to do. Now is the place. Now is where you take your stand. Now is all you have to work with. Now. I went from waiting on when to a focus on now. And just making that one little shift allowed things to begin to change. Actually, I began to change. I began to change how I looked at my life. I began to change how I looked at my directions. I began to change how I looked at my choices. Just that one small shift in focus. Call it my transformative little bit moment. It made a difference. 2 weeks before the conference, I finally got raw and brutally real with myself. That was my wall-hitting aha moment. Just like I had been honest and real about my garden months before, I finally got to that place with myself. Now, I didn't berate where I was. I didn't beat myself up because of the choices I had made. I just was honest. I gave myself an honest assessment. This is where you are. This is how you got there. The honesty required me to give up my delusion. Once I gave up my delusion, I took responsibility for my choices. Once I took responsibility, I was positioned to make new choices moving forward. Embracing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, that's what allows you to get to a place of contentment. Contentment. Contentment is that place of accepting. It's seeing where you are, seeing the reality of the moment, but at the same time, not limiting the vision or the possibilities or the hope of tomorrow, of that next step. It turns out contentment is a great motivator because it removes the pressure that's caused by when. I didn't even know I was applying pressure until I let when go. And once I did, once I let the pressure of when fly, it created space for purposeful actions to filter in. When I moved from when to a focus of honest review, it reminded me the power that comes from shifting. Just think of my husband walking down the road. One little shift in his step and now he's laying on the ground. One little shift in his step and he's back walking again. Contentment creates that peace that makes the mind shift possible. Contentment creates the peace. You can go on tricking yourself when you use when as your motivator, or you can make the move to let when go, to just give it up. Let go of the tricks that keep you where you are. Move away from the river of denial running straight through that state of delusion. Determine that you're not going to play any more games. When I accepted the truth about where I was and where I was going and how I got there, it revealed the wound. Revealing the wound allowed me to begin to heal. But it had to start with now. Right now, not when. I found clothes that fit me now. I found activities that I could do now. I found ways to get things done right now. The journey continues one now at a time. It's a choice now. A choice now. If you aren't where you want to be, then it's time now to admit the truth about where you are. Know that in your mind, when you choose to change the way you think, you choose to begin to prepare yourself to move. When you focus on the possibilities and not the problems, you begin to create the opportunity to step. When you invest in a little bit, just a little bit, then you overcome the excuses of when. I'm going to do a little bit. That little bit doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be every time, but I'm going to do a little bit. Change the mind and change your world. You can do this. I can do this. We can get to where we want to be. But you can't hide from yourself forever. The sooner you stop hiding, the sooner you can start changing. Standing's not easy. Changing's not easy. Going, doing, being, it's not easy. Even when you have a solid foundation under you, even when you know what it is you want to do, it's not easy. The circumstances of your life can trick you into believing that your surroundings are different than what they really are. And when you begin to believe that they're different than they really are, then you knock yourself off balance. But when you're honest, and when you're real, and when you're raw about what you're doing, then you can, despite the circumstances, you can find your balance. Many years ago, I had the opportunity to go out sailing with some friends out on Mobile Bay. And it was a very windy day, and I loved to feel the wind in my hair, and I love the sound of the waves in the ocean. But apparently I don't love riding the waves in the ocean because it was just not pretty. It just was not pretty. It was not what I had expected. And I have not since been out on the open ocean in a boat. The situation didn't bother anybody else on the boat. It was just me that was down hugging let's just say I was having situations that were not pleasant. Nobody else was down there. Nobody else was having problems. They were used to it. It was second nature to them. And it wasn't just bad for me out on the ocean, but when we got back to the dock and I stepped finally onto solid ground, my legs didn't believe me. My mind didn't believe me. My stomach definitely didn't believe that we were on solid ground. Everything still felt like it was rolling, and I still couldn't find my balance. I couldn't convince myself that there were no longer waves under me. My reality of my situation, my circumstances, wasn't the actual reality. But it didn't make it any easier because I believed, even though I knew, I believed that I didn't have my balance. So I didn't have my balance. And it took me a little bit of walking before everybody lined back up. You know, my mind, my stomach, my legs, and they all accepted that we were actually on solid ground. We were not, rolling and rolling and rolling. So when you get to this place where your reality is not the reality, the circumstances have happened and you are believing the circumstances more than you are the truth. You're believing that the waves are still rocking you even though you're standing on solid ground. The longer you're caught up in the circumstances, the more challenging it is to get beyond those circumstances. But when you're honest with yourself, you prepare yourself, you begin to move in the way that's going to let you get beyond and get over it. Life is going to get messy. Life is going to be out of order. Life is going to be a little wavy every now and then. And you can create the contingency plans that are going to help you deal with the unexpected. But if you don't have your balance, it won't matter how good your contingency plan is. And if you're not honest with yourself, you will never fully have your balance. Circumstances are those things you can't control, but you can always control and have balance and be honest. And in that control, you take purposeful actions to overcome and work through the circumstances. You can fool yourself. Most of the time you can fool yourself more than you can fool the people around you, but you cannot fool yourself forever. Things are going to happen. Eventually you're going to run headfirst into that brick wall. And trust me, it is not a pleasant experience. If you will be truthful with yourself before you hit the brick wall, it's not going to be comfortable to be truthful with yourself, but it's going to be way less painful than hitting that brick wall. Being truthful is going to allow you to regain your balance or find your balance for the first time, and then you can begin to move forward. But don't wait. Don't wait until when to make it happen. You have to start now. You have to take that step now to work it out. If you keep waiting until when, then you will be waiting until your clock runs out. When won't happen, and when won't win. Now is the time. Now is what you need to do. You have to choose it now, in this moment, to begin the journey to a balanced life. The question is, will you? Thank you so much for joining me for today's Growing Hope. I look forward to continuing down this journey to a balanced life with you. I look forward to hearing your stories about how you are finding your balance, or you are choosing now over when. If you need a little boost of encouragement during the week, or just want to tell me how things are going or ask me a question, you can email me at radio@kathrynlang.com. Stop by, say hello. Remember, we're so much stronger and so much better when we journey together. You've got this. Whatever this is that you're trying to pursue, you can do it. Until next time, be blessed and be a blessing.
Thank you for joining us for Growing Hope with Kathryn Lang, where we are sharing hope, encouragement, and inspiration to do more. Visit www.kathrynlang.com to invite Kathryn to be part of your event or to share your own stories of possibility living. Until next time, remember that a seed of hope planted and nurtured will grow up into a world of possibilities.